actually my best friend since childhood. We were comparing our graphs and she's like, well, what happened here? How did you get this to go like this? And I'm like, that's the sauna, like straight up for real. Cause I can't think of much different that I've changed, definitely making diet adjustments at the same time.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Danielle Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk, where we feature the top practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Jim Davis and Danielle Kitson, the founders of Fire and Ice Wellness. The Kitson-Davis family was rocked in 2022 when Danielle was diagnosed with breast cancer. After pursuing traditional treatments, Danielle and Jim also began researching and discovering the amazing benefits of cutting-edge therapies, such as cryotherapy and infrared sauna, in improving overall health and wellness. The whole family has since embarked on a path of embracing these therapies, which has led Jim and Danielle's mom, Nana Lynn, losing a combined 150 pounds and improving their blood markers and overall health. They feel better than ever, and their boys are thriving as they grow. Jim and Danielle are now on a mission to make innovation and science-backed wellness therapies accessible to the public and to educate customers about their game-changing benefits. So Jim and Danielle, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So in that introduction, I kind of talked a little bit about what got you into wellness and kind of now that you're on this journey, but could you expand a little bit more on that? I mean, how did you even find out about these treatments, that they were even out there, that they even existed?
Sure. So I'm an attorney, and before my cancer diagnosis, had not thought about the world of health and wellness pretty much at all, other than I should get to the gym, which I didn't do. But I was 47 when I was diagnosed, and I am a bit of a control freak type A person. And so as soon as I got that diagnosis, I started finding every podcast I could find on how to fight cancer, including alternative methodologies, and quickly found Mark Hyman and Dave Asprey and Drew Pruitt and this whole functional medicine crowd, and listening to them. And the very first thing we did was hyperbaric chamber, because through all of these podcasts, hyperbaric chamber and Prolon, which is a fasting mimicking diet, are a really powerful combination. So that's the very first thing I did, in addition to a detox diet at that time, which we are repeating actually right now at Fire and Ice. But those were kind of the combination of things that I did right around at the beginning. And the hyperbaric chamber floods your system with oxygen, which really helps fight cancer, because cancer cells do not like oxygen. It makes them very weak and kills them. And so then if you do hyperbaric in combination with your chemo treatment, it makes the chemo a lot more effective, which is great. And then the Prolon, when you do a fasting mimicking or any kind of fasting in combination with chemo, it makes your cancer cells weaker because they feed on sugar, and it makes your healthy cells stronger. And so to answer your question, that is how we got into the health and wellness world, is through my cancer diagnosis and many, many podcasts.
Wow. Okay. So when it comes down to all these treatments that you provide to your clients, so I know that you do like red light, you do the cryotherapy, you do the infrared sauna, cold plunge, hyperbaric chamber, all these different things. What's the overall benefits? I mean, you use it specifically to help you fight your cancer, but I mean, can this be used for people in other situations? Like, in what scenarios are you really going to get benefits from this?
So where a lot of these fall is with cellular health. It's funny how each one of these in their own way is impacting that. And so you have like this broad reaching set of benefits from them. Back to the hyperbaric, that one, among the many things that it does with just oxygen, it also, that extra oxygen encourages your marrow to start producing more stem cells. So your body just gets filled with these blank cells. And it's amazing as a tool if you're recovering from an injury or a surgery. It's amazing as a tool if you're, recovering from chemo and its effects. But it's also an amazing tool if you're just completely healthy and every organ in your body needs to slough some old cells in lieu of new ones. So cellular health and overall health are impacted in a more holistic way like that too. The same is true for red light, which encourages the stimulation of or stimulates your cells to produce collagen and ATP, which helps, in the healing of tissue. And again, more cellular health in that way too. So it's funny how so many of these impact three main things: cellular health, uh, inflammation, anti-inflammation, and better sleep. Like those three things get impacted over and over and over. And when you're looking at all these modalities just in different ways, and boy, if you improve your cellular health and you sleep better at night, and you have less inflammation, it is the impacts on your day-to-day life are stark.
Yeah, and we found in our research, our mission is to improve cellular health. And in our research, what we found is that we are all of us, even the healthiest of us, under a tremendous toxic burden today with all that we have, air quality, water quality, pesticides on all of the food that we eat, BPA from the plastics that we use in, drinking and just in general, the toxic load that we have every day. And so anytime you can do something to help relieve your cells of that burden or help them in any way, every single aspect of your biology is helped with that. And so, to Jim's point, sleep is one of those. Your immunity is boosted. It's easier to lose weight. Yeah, I mean, you have more energy, you have better longevity, and on and on and on.
Got it. So it sounds like no matter kind of what situation you're in, I guess the overarching idea is the overall health. Is that whether you are, hopefully you don't have cancer, but if you have cancer, if you have health issues, if you're healthy but just want a better quality of life, like any of these situations, as long as you have that mindset of I want to be healthier, any of these treatments can help you. Does that sound correct? I get that right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, the it's a matter of what are we trying to target specifically, what works best for you. So some of our, there is overlap in a lot of these. So, sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, this works just better for me in my situation, the time I have to commit to it, and the other ones may be great, but I don't have, it doesn't fit in right with how much time I can commit or how much, it just doesn't work with me in one way or another. So it's about finding the right fit of what can help you. And that's why we like having a variety of services so that people can find that. And, we find that a lot of people love our infrared sauna and cold plunge, and you can go back and forth. But it's also a big time commitment, and you also are getting wet and you have to shower afterwards. And people don't have time in the middle of their day for that. So they prefer red light and cryo treatment, which is shorter and faster, and they're dry and they can go back to work. And not just so that's just for how they can implement these and not just about like their actual, there's different science behind them and they help you in different ways. But, some of it is what can you do routinely, regularly, and stay committed to, and you're going to have better results.
Okay. So you already kind of answered this as far as mixing these different treatments together. So is it something where you really should be mixing them together? Like you have that contrast, the cryo plus the infrared, or the hot and the cold. Is that always good for everybody, or is it really going to just depend on, hey, you know what, in your situation, cold is actually good for you, you shouldn't do hot, or hey, hot's really good for you, you shouldn't do cold?
Um, General rule of thumb is stacking is whenever you can stack different modalities, it's going to be more effective. You're kind of compounding the effectiveness. So cold and hot, like that's a great, way to understand the principle of stacking, where in the hot therapies, whether it's the sauna, whether it's the red light, you get a lot of vasodilation, right? You get your capillaries and blood vessels start opening up wider as a means of cooling you off or as a means of, so you get better circulation that way. And then you hit it with a cold treatment, whether it's cold plunge, whether it's cryotherapy, and immediately your body goes into conservative mode where it's like, oh no, we're in danger, and it slams your vascular system closed to move all the blood back up to your core. And then after about 30 seconds, it figures out, wait a minute, I'm not actually in danger. I better get some circulation back to those extremities, back to my fingers and toes. So then your whole circulation system opens back up again. And so in that act of opening and closing your or vasodilation is the term for it, but that the act of opening and closing like that helps to move toxins in particular and inflammation away from that circulatory system, which makes it more effective uh, in the going forward. So there are times where people, the cold therapies in particular, people aren't as fond of. It's a bit of a, people get a little intimidated by those sometimes, um, but it is really, you're compounding the effectiveness of that vasodilation.
And in practicality, there's only one combination that kind of doesn't work in our studio, and that is if you do infrared sauna and cold plunge first, our fire and ice room, then we don't recommend that you get right in the cryo chamber because you're wet and you can't get into a cryo chamber when you're wet. So within the studio, those are the only two that you wouldn't want to do in combination. And in general, there are some contraindications for each of these modalities. And so you do have to be careful. And we tell people, if you have a particular medical condition, then you'll want to check with your healthcare provider before you use, this particular service. And, I would say the biggest one that knocks you out of almost every service we have is pregnancy, for instance. I think you can only do red light if you may be pregnant. But otherwise, the vast majority of people can use all of these modalities, and in combination, you stack your biohacks, as we like to say. So yeah, those are pretty much the limitations.
Got it. Okay. Now, when it comes into these types of treatments, like how often do people really need it, or is it going to depend on a case by case? Because I think some people might look at this and be like, well, they're comparing it almost to like a diet. Well, if I do this once a week, if I only do a diet once a week, it's not really going to help me. But is this something that you can do once a week and you can experience all those benefits, or should you be doing it every day, or like what is that time frame? Like how often should you be doing it?
Yeah, I mean, any amount is going to help you. Just as one example, if you get in that cryo chamber for 3 minutes, you burn 500 calories and get a huge dose of dopamine and norepinephrine, and you're going to get a high from that and feel great. And you've now burned 500 calories that you can take with you for the rest of the week, right? So, and each and every modality is like that. But in general, what we would say, and each one is its own specific thing. The infrared sauna and cold plunge, what research has shown is that over a course of a week, you would ideally want to get 11 minutes of cold therapy in a cold plunge tub or in the cryo chamber. And so if you think about that, because we usually recommend a couple of cycles of cold plunge when you're in the fire and ice. So you do the infrared sauna for 20 minutes or so, jump in the cold plunge for 2 to 3 minutes, and then repeat that cycle one more time. So you do that a couple times a week and are in the cold plunge tub long enough, you'll hit that 11-minute threshold. That's the ideal, but any amount's going to help. Red light and cryo, same thing. That's a great combination. So, we would say try to do the fire and ice room 2 to 3 times a week, or red light and cryo 2 to 3 times a week. Usually you want to kind of front load that. So you could start by doing 3 times for the first, 3 or 4 weeks, and then ratchet that down to just 2 as a maintenance. But honestly, any amount you do is going to be helpful.
Got it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's true certainly true for those. And kind of rule of thumb is, shoot for twice a week is a good target.
yeah,
Some of them we have the halo salt therapy as well, and that's microparticles of salt that get into the air and for your lungs. It gives the mucus in your lungs something to collect around so you can expel it. That also has a red light, so it's a nice 2 for 1. But really, you get to a certain point with that where you've front loaded it, as Danny says, did it several times right in a row, and you get to a certain point where you kind of, top out. Now your respiratory system's working pretty good, and you won't notice a need or a difference for about a week to 10 days. So you can kind of go on more of a maintenance mode with that. I think hyperbaric's kind of that way too. You can kind of, once you ramp up, then you can kind of go on maintenance mode of like once a week, or you can dial it back a little bit. But yeah, so it's each one of them's a little bit different on how often you need them. We have compression sleeves as well, so like for compression therapy, and that's pretty much any time you work out. It's a great way to recover afterwards, and so you don't have quite so much lactic acid in the building up in your muscles. So each one of them's a little bit different, but yeah, most of them we try to just encourage people, assume once or twice or 2 to 3 times a week is a good target.
Got it. Now, going through these types of modalities, like the cryo chamber and the cold plunge, I think most people understand that. Cryo, you basically just blast cold air on you. Cold plunge,
Yeah.
you're jumping into ice cold water. But when it comes to the red light and the infrared, I don't know if many people really understand the difference between those, because it's like, isn't the same thing? Red light and infrared isn't the same thing. But like, what's the main differences between those two different types of treatments?
It's all different frequencies of light. So, infrared, when you get into those frequencies, you actually are heating up from the inside out. So, that's why when you're in the infrared sauna, of course, you're hot, right? But in the red light bed, you're not getting into the mid and far level infrared where you would start to heat up inside your body. So, instead, you're at near infrared light, which doesn't create that heating process, and then you're at regular red light. So there's an entire spectrum of light basically at different frequencies that reach into your body at different levels. So far infrared is the deepest. It goes, reaches all the way in, gets into your cells deep in your body. Then there's mid infrared, which gets kind of in the muscle and the joints. And then you have near infrared that's kind of closer to the skin. And then you have your red light, which is really focusing on, your skin at the surface. So, and there are many different layers within that and pulse frequencies, but that's basically it. So when you're in the red light bed, you're focused more on skin into kind of the beginning of the muscles and joints. When you're in the infrared sauna, our infrared sauna happens to have all of those things. So it has all the frequencies of light, which is really awesome. And then the red light bed that we have focuses on near and red, but has just 45,000 diodes of light hitting you everywhere. You're pretty much in your birthday suit when you're in there in a locked room. So that's kind of like NASA level of those frequencies. So I like to do both.
Okay. So I'm sure that you get this question a lot. Which one's better?
Well, so it depends. I mean, I think if I'm focusing on wrinkles, to be honest, and anti-aging and that type of thing, I'm doing red light. If I'm focused on detox, so the thing that the infrared sauna is far superior on, I would say, is detox. Red light bed, you are detoxing because your cells are just getting more efficient and they're able to clean house and detoxify you better because you're getting that light frequency. But the infrared sauna adds the sweating component, and that you're really getting toxins out through your sweat and through your glands as well. So yeah, I like to mix that up, but my favorite is the sauna. I just feel the stress come out of my body too. I don't know
Okay,
what
so
yours is, yeah.
the sauna is also like one as a part of that detox too is heavy metals. We tend to collect, a lot more heavy metals in our extremities, especially because our circulation is lower there.
Mhm.
And so you do get a lot more toxins there. And so it's important to expel those out. And very few things are as efficient as doing that as the sauna is. But also, like, there is the social experience of that. So it's the sauna is a shareable moment, right? The red light bed is great and it's super powerful, but you're in there by yourself, and I like that the social element of that. So we've got a 5-person sauna with a cold plunge tub, so you can have a group of people and going back and forth to the tub. Because I love, I often say that our goal is to make fire and ice the area's wellness living room.
Mhm.
That that this shouldn't just be an isolated experience. Like this is something we can share. This is some place where we can go and meet up with friends and um, get our in-body scan and talk about the numbers and geek out on data. Um, and yeah, so to the greatest extent as possible, we tried to make, as many of our experiences as we could shared experience.
Okay.
And so I like the sauna for that reason, personally.
Okay. You get all sweat together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now, I'm also curious, as far as all these treatments go, what is the effect on weight loss? I mean, in your introduction, you talked about you, the three of you, losing 150 pounds, which is incredible. So, how much of this goes into these treatments? How much of this goes into eating healthier? Are they combined? Like, you just talk a little bit more about the extent of weight loss when it comes to these treatments.
It's hard to know. It's hard to disaggregate that to your point. So, I mean, I've struggled with my weight my whole life. And when these modalities came into my life, particularly infrared sauna, yeah, I was also improving my diet, but improving my diet I've done many times in the past. And so it's funny, we have Fitbits and I've been tracking my weight since 2018. And so if I look at 2021, I'm had improved my diet. I'm doing all the things, but I knew nothing about these wellness modalities. And if you look at my Fitbit graph, it's kind of like this. It's flat, but and then you fast forward to 2023, adding infrared sauna, and now it's going like this. And actually, my best friend since childhood, we were comparing our graphs, and she's like, "Well, what happened here? How did you get this to go like this?" And I'm like, that's the sauna, like straight up for real, because I can't think of much different that I've changed, definitely making diet adjustments at the same time. But yeah, it makes a huge difference. And also at that time, so I was really combining sauna, which I was doing 4 days a week. We own an infrared sauna in our basement. And then I was doing cryotherapy twice a week. And that combination was really powerful for weight loss. Yeah.
I always found that, to make strip it down to even a more base level for me, again, we kind of talked about like how just alleviating inflammation increases like your micro movement over the course of a day. If your joints just don't hurt the way that they usually do, if you're not groaning quite as much every time you got to stand up, then all of a sudden, that extra walk doesn't seem as daunting, or just those extra little things you do over the course of a day, all of a sudden you're doing just more of that. You're just more active. And when you're more active, you're burning more calories. And when you have, all of these, like I said, all of these also like improve sleep, better sleep health function, also improves like your overall ability to move and your activity levels. And so it's one of the that and for me, I did a lot more working out. And so, to your point, it's sometimes hard to point to which one of these shotgun effects helped the most, but just the feeling, having that initial baseline feeling of having less inflammation and less soreness and less, fatigue, muscle fatigue, and ready to start your day. Funny old world how then you start filling that with more things.
Mm.
And so it gives you that better baseline to begin from. And then, then it was easier to tack things on, like that extra, trip to the gym, that, the adding on the third day of the week instead of just doing 2 days a week, that all of a sudden became easier to justify because I'm not as sore as I was,
Yeah.
and I was sleeping better than I had been. So, so yeah, it really is an important component because that's your baseline that you're starting from. So
There's also a direct impact that's been studied. And there's this researcher, Susanna Soberg, she wrote a book called Winter Swimming, which is amazing. And she's the kind of foremost researcher on cold plunge and the biological effects of cold plunge. And one of the other things that happens is we have two different kinds of fat in our body. We have white fat, which is, the bad adipose tissue that we don't want. And we have brown fat, which is metabolically active, good fat that you do want. And when you get in the cold plunge, you are actually browning fat. You're activating your brown fat. You are it also takes white fat and browns it, so to speak. And when that happens, you're boosting your metabolism because brown fat actually burns white fat. So it's this metabolic effect just directly from the cold. So we call it, and a lot of these functional medicine practitioners call it, beiging your fat or browning your fat when you get in the cryo chamber or in the cold plunge.
Okay. So basically, when you get into the cold plunge, your body is burning more energy, burning more fat, even when you're done with it, and even if
Yep.
you do it for a couple minutes.
Yeah. And if you think about, why it's doing that, like when your body has to spend, really a couple of hours heating itself back up, it heats itself up back up by burning calories. Right? That's what calories are, is energy that it's ultimately spending. And so, yeah, and it's changing, how it's storing said energy. So,
Okay. Now, I think we talked a lot about kind of like the science behind it and like overall health, detoxifying, better sleep, things like that. But I kind of want to try and really hit on the head like the benefits of this, really in the perspective of extending your lifespan, if that's something that helps extend your lifespan, but not only extending your lifespan, like how long you're going to live, but also your health span, which is basically the quality of life that you're going to have. Because I mean, I'd imagine that most people want to live longer, but if you're going to live longer in pain or suffering, then it's not worth living the extra time. So could you talk a little bit more to how these treatments are able to, and if they are able to extend your lifespan, how long you're going to live, but also your health span as far as the quality of life?
yeah, there's a number of different ways. I'll speak to one specifically that, again, inflammation is one of the key things, and there's a term for it that a term of art that people use of inflammaging. So like each decade, you kind of notice it decade by decade as you get older that you have just a little bit more inflammation than you did when you were the decade before.
Mhm.
That's also true of your circulatory system as well. So like, your capillaries start to feel the impact of inflammation as you get older as well. And when they do, all the cells past them are less apt to burn oxygen as they normally would when you were younger, and they start burning more and more, uh, you know, gluten and which produces metabolic waste, like all these different types of metabolic waste, which then, because of the inflammation, is now trapped within that. So as you relieve the inflammation, which is what, time and again, what these types of services are kind of targeted at, or these modalities, they, as you relieve that inflammation, you're able to remove some of that metabolic waste that's been building up in those zones. Um, so that type of, battling that inflammaging is one of those things that can help you feel like you were in that previous decade. It's a little tough, going all the way back 2 or 3 decades. That's another problem, but hopefully somebody can solve that one.
Yeah.
But if you can walk back some of the clock on that inflammaging, then
Yeah, and from a longevity perspective, one of the things that's happening as we age is our cells are becoming less effective. So your cells are supposed to turn over every 2 years. They have a pre-programmed lifespan, and they're supposed to, self-die, if you will, after a couple of years. And as you get older, your cells are more sluggish and less willing to do that. And so they become senescent cells, is the name for them, otherwise known as zombie cells. So one of the things all of these modalities do is kill those zombie cells, which just makes your body more effective, more efficient, and you're able more youthful. So that's one of the main things that happens from a longevity perspective. And to Jim's point, zombie cells create inflammation. So they just sit around your body, just lazing about and creating all this inflammation. So that's one of the things our modalities do is kill those off. And then health span wise, it's similar. So Jim said a couple of things. When you reduce that inflammation, for me personally, I have osteoarthritis. And so when I'm using these modalities regularly, it's managed. I'm able to live much better. I'm not in pain. We are often saying, I'll say, I need to do a sauna session because my back is hurting or my hips are hurting. And it's immediate relief when you do that. So that's really helpful from a health span. The other thing I think that's helpful is these things give you more energy. And so you're able to do the things in life that are healthier. So for me, it's 2:30 p.m. I'm tired, I'm cranky, my depression is kind of kicking in. I just feel like eating Cheetos and chocolate, right? But instead, I get in the cryo chamber for 3 minutes. I come out, I'm not in pain if I was having some pain. I'm in a great mood. I've gotten this dopamine hit, basically. I am now energized, and I come home and I am able to cook a healthy dinner instead of having my, Cheetos binge.
Yeah, that's great. So it's basically about rewinding the clock. It's about removing all the bad stuff from the body and just having the body, I guess, self-repair itself then. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. So then what are some common misconceptions that people have about these treatments? I'm sure a lot of people come in and they just don't know how what it does, or they have myths or misconceptions. What would you say are some of those common myths or misconceptions that you hear the most?
Hmm. So the ones I hear often are about the process itself. So as Danny said before, a lot of these you kind of have to front load. You don't notice it immediately on the first time, right?
Mhm.
Certainly like salt therapy is like that, hyperbaric is like that. So, you've got to do it several times. And then I personally start to notice it most when I have its lack, right? So I kind of ramp up. And once I've ramped up to a certain point, then life happens and I just am not able to do that for a few days or for a week. And then its effects start going away. And I'm like, oh, so that's what that was doing. Yeah. So you kind of feel it on the back end more than, or I do. And uh, so yeah, helping people understand that there's a process involved and you'll like the end result, but you may not feel like an immediate first effect. The opposite of that, of course, is the fire nights. When you do sauna and cold plunge, you feel amazing that day. So now, if you need immediate gratification, that's the one. But and same with the
Cryo,
cryo too. Yeah,
for me, all of them do it. I mean,
yeah,
every single one. But yeah, but I would say the biggest misconceptions I hear are the red light bed. I hear all the time, it looks like a tanning bed. That can't be good for
yeah,
you. UV rays, UV red. We just try to reassure people like there are
yeah,
no UV rays in our red light bed. It's
yeah,
all beneficial light. And then the other misconception is sort of this concept that this is all woo, right? Oh,
yeah,
this couldn't be, oh, you're laying in the red light bed. And that really, you just have to kind of explain the science. And also, the fact that there are studies where they're directly seeing when you expose water, for instance, water molecules to infrared light, the water is restructuring and becoming more with a better viscosity, which helps your body. And that's happening in your body when you're exposed to that same light. So that's sort of a direct effect where you're seeing it. And then just hundreds of, randomized placebo controlled studies supporting all of these modalities. So when we point people kind of to the research and tell them about those things, they're more assured that
yeah.
these things are very effective in helping with your health and wellness.
Yeah, the hyperbaric is like that too, right? I often point out to people that's a common thing to have in a hospital for burn victims, for pre and post-op surgery, for major wound treatments. They have big medical grade versions of those. We're using it to help people have a better life and to recover after workouts, not healing burn victims, but the science is the same and it can be used to help you the same as it can be used to help them. They're more critical for sure. Like they need all the help. but that doesn't mean that you can't use it to help your body too. And we're just making it more, democratic,
Okay.
democratizing the service. Um, but yeah, so yeah, sometimes some people need a little there's a certain amount of public education that goes along with it. But yeah, we really prided ourselves on choosing and selecting, modalities that really had a lot of science backing them. And, we didn't go out on any limbs on any of these. They all have a ton of literature backing it up.
Okay, good to know. Now, you talked a little bit about this before, but I'm curious, what is your long-term vision for your business, Fire and Ice Wellness?
Well, we'd like to scale it. I mean, this is our flagship
Mhm.
wellness studio. We would love to scale it one day, and we've been building it with that in mind all the way along. So that is our hope. So, and we're on that trajectory. We just have to stay on that trajectory.
Yeah.
Got it.
I love the act of building a community with it, and that I think that that's one of the, to me, the things that make our service different than other places that are in this space, is that belief in community and the social element of these wellness practices, right? So that this is a place that you can meet up and meet your friends and have fun without and walk away feeling better rather than meeting up someplace and having a bunch of wine and, you know at the end of the day, all we want to do is really visit our friends, right? And so we still just want that place of community. And so um, I would love to see as we grow, us be able to expand that more and to make, all of these services even more inclusive still, bigger and capable of having more people there. And yeah, just being a more active, place for community rather than having it have a clinical feel where you're going in by yourself.
Yeah.
This is something just for you. And yeah, I really think that, health and wellness is a shared experience.
It'll
We
be the
like having a private room for sauna and cold plunge, but we've had more than one customer say, "Hey, can we just open this up for a few hours? I like meeting new sauna buddies."
Mm.
Yeah, someone
Yeah,
requested community sauna time,
yeah.
and we were like,
All
we don't think
right.
anybody would want that, but
But
we're considering it now. It's like,
yeah.
okay.
So that's absolutely the part of this is that because also that directly impacts how often you're going to do this, what your results are going to be, but how long you continue to do this. It's
Mm.
just like having a gym buddy, right? Like you're going to show up to the gym more if somebody's there waiting for you. And you're going to be more consistent with these positive practices and therefore have better results. So it's like I just see it as like a beneficial thing across the board to embrace that, and I want to lean more into that as we grow.
So it'll be the cool hangout spot for all the fit people and all the health.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I don't know. And postmenopausal women.
There you go. Okay.
That's I love my friends and I, we're not meeting at the bar anymore because, we don't have any room for error. We don't want to like put on all those pounds and wake up with a headache feeling like crap. So yeah.
I get that. It's a great vision. Now, Jim and Danielle, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at fireandIceLongmont.com. Now,
great.
last question is, what does beauty mean to you?
Hmm. Um, I really like feeling good in one's skin is always uh to me, you can always spot the most attractive people because from who they are like on the inside. When you're feeling good and you're feeling confident and you're feeling, you know, in the right physical space, it's amazing how beautiful you really are. Like that to me, uh you can always tell people that are in that space. And you can always tell people like when you talk to them that are, you know, feeling not feeling their best. So I really believe that, our inside creates the beauty on our outside.
For me personally, I when I started getting into all of these modalities at the beginning, I would always say, like, I feel amazing. Like, I say that to my friends all the time and my family, and like my skin was glowing and I had energy and I was losing weight. And so, yeah, it's kind of that overall feeling, just kind of a lightheartedness and a lightness. And we also, we have esthetician services. We've got cryo slimming, cryotoning, and we also offer anti-aging facials. And so I love doing that stuff too because it's also a bit of pampering. And also, post-menopause, it gets really hard. They joke, your fat basically moves from your butt to your gut. So like I love the cryo slimming stuff because it you know, basically tailors where you can fight against that a little bit. So yeah, I think it's just feeling confident and really energized and healthy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, Jim and Danielle sharing their expertise. Now, where can people contact you and your business?
We're located in Longmont, Colorado, and yeah, you can find us on online at fireandIceLongmont.com. It's yeah, we're located in Village at the Peaks there. It's in Longmont, right on Hover Street. So
Okay. Well, this is awesome. This is amazing. Thanks for coming on, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom.
all right, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.